Everybody, it's so good to see you. We're thrilled today to have DuEwa Frazier with us, and we're thrilled that you're each with us. My name is Joy Rosenthal. I'm the president of One Breath Rising. EJ and I are founding members, and we're really glad to be doing this. This is our 6th season, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we've been presenting jazz and poetry since 2015, and we're so honored to be able to do this. A couple of quick things, and then I'll turn it over to EJ. So you might, once DuEwa starts, I will pin her video, so you might want to put the Zoom setting into speaker view so that she fills up the whole screen. And mute yourselves. I guess most of you are muted, so we're all getting well trained in Zoom. And DuEwa has put her website in. I will also put the One Breath Rising website in a way that you can donate, so that we can keep doing this and keep presenting people. And we would love to have you come back and join us next month and the month after. We've got a great lineup for this year, but we're particularly happy that you're here and we're all here today. So EJ, that's all I think I need to say, and I will put myself on mute.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to One Breath Rising's second Sunday series. We are really honored today to have DuEwa Frazier as our reader and presenter. And I know you're just going to really enjoy her work. But before DuEwa starts, I want to thank our sponsors, which is the 440 Gallery, the Garner Glazer Foundation, the Park Slope Civic Council, Poets and Writers, the Fife Diggy Dog Foundation, you, our individual donors, and our audience. We want to thank all of you for making this programming possible. DuEwa Frazier is a poet, children's author, speaker, and educator. Born in Brooklyn, DuEwa is the author of poetry collections and stories for young readers. Her books include Goddess Under the Bridge, Poems, Alice's musical debut, and Check the Rhyme, an anthology of female poets and Emcees, which was nominated for an NAACP Image Award in Outstanding Literary Work under the category of poetry. She's received a writing fellowship this year from the Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing. Her writing has been featured in several literary journals, anthologies, and digital publications and magazines. She's earned her MFA in creative writing at the New School in New York City. And we want to welcome DuEwa to the stage.
Thank you so much, EJ. I want to start by thanking EJ and Joy Rosenthal, and as well, the wonderful poet, Daryl Allardyce, who was a friend of mine in the poetry community. Appreciate his legacy and the wonderful community support that One Breath Rising offers. And I'd also like to thank my friends who are here in support. Appreciate you all on this beautiful Sunday, and bless you as well. I like to start with a poem. This is from my last collection of poetry, Goddess Under the Bridge Poems, and it's titled Gypsy for Lucille Clifton. My spirit collected memories from Mississippi, a journey I could never forget. Ancestors threatened to call me home. I rode on the back of my great-grandmother, a Native American, an African, a woman with metal in her core. I could never stop moving. Once a gypsy, always a gypsy. Trained to survive from the center of my mother's garden. I was a child of a mother, not a father. A delayed genius, a fearful porcupine. I change my colors depending on who I have to fight next. And that was Gypsy. This next poem, I'm currently working on a collection now, and it's been several years, actually. This is going to be a mix of poems that I probably started in 2015, and I'm still working them, and I've shared them with a few folks, but I just really, I'm expressing the sentiment of social justice in a lot of these poems. And you may hear some references to Ferguson and St. Louis, and which is one of my places where I grew up. And so I just want to share that in terms of the themes of some of these poems. And this one is called The Link. Like pain exploding into purple and then nothingness, like voices in a riot, never-ending chance we shall overcome someday. Hands linking Selma to Ferguson, like justice for injustice, something that don't come around too often, like a yellow cat with blue stripes, a grown baby, a pimp for president, indictment for illegal murder. Then again, it's like an all-night vigil, somebody hanging in the balance, like trembling when you feel that something ain't right feeling in the pit of your stomach. After this moment, things will never be the same. Maybe things will never be different. Okay. This next poem is titled Ferguson in Numbers. 9th day of August in 2014. In the county of St. Louis, Missouri, city called Ferguson, became internationally known after widespread outrage and protests in the shooting death of Michael Brown. 18 years old, 6'5" in height, 289 pounds. Michael had 6 entry wounds, 12 shots were fired, 3 exit wounds, 2 grazing wounds, 2 lighters, and 2 $5 bills in his pockets. 24th day of November in 2014, the officer who shot Brown was acquitted of all charges. This next poem is titled Canfield. Foul language stuck to the humidity like wet tissue inside a trash dumpster. Get out the damn street. Then get the F out the street. The obscene commands were ignored. Things escalated. This, according to witnesses. 2 young men heard the disrespectful tone, the angry, foul words, saw the police car and the scowling face in it. Michael's jaws tightened. Yo, did you hear that? His friend asked. Too hot for this BS, Michael answered. His friend shrugged his shoulders. They continued walking to cross the street amidst the officer's commands. Michael brushed off the officer's words because he had somewhere to go. Besides, he was in his neighborhood on Canfield Drive in Ferguson, Missouri in the Midwest, home of the Cards, Good Barbecue, the St. Louis Arch, Chuck Berry, and the Blues. Split second and everything changed. Brothers, uncles, cousins, mamas, grandmamas, and babies on the block could not have predicted that illegal murder would take place right there on Canfield Drive. On this day, an officer said he was defending himself when he shot the young man. The young man named Michael laid on the ground, lifeless. His mama and daddy and everyone screamed, wondering why their son was gone. Something I'm still working on. I'm just kind of working through some of those things. So, okay. All right, this next poem is titled Piece of Peace. I need a piece of peace that stands tall like a brave queen in white, carrying a sage smudge wand, dancing with courage in between metal stakes, in between buildings with no light, staring into eyes with no soul. I need a piece of peace caressing hills and mountains, bringing Tibetan bells, sprinkling holy water on a patch of hell. I need a piece of peace that talks back to the crooked paths and the corrected crooks, that saves the sinner and soothes the saint. I need a piece of peace, a living testament singing, glory, glory, hallelujah, reaching back into history to slay this thing called hate. I need a piece of peace that greases my scalp, steeps a pot of peppermint herbal tea and meditates in the morning on a thing called love. I need a piece of peace that pushes through concrete, reaching out to sunlight, dissolving the stench of hate, creating a stance of courage, a mist of possibility, splitting the hold that ignorance manifested, birthing the spirit of hope. Just trying to decide what to read next. Thank you so much for you all's presence today. Okay, dignity. Was he a violent robber or a teenager shooting the breeze, walking with a friend, just trying to get from point A to point B? Did he steal the cigarillos and rough up a store owner, or was it a lie to justify the brutality? Roll the tape back. Was there a laugh, smirk, or gesture we missed from the video of a smartphone? Said they saw a tussle, heard a loud boom, shot. Teen fell like a giant. Person who did it didn't shed a tear. Mike Brown lay there for hours in the street, as if Black bodies ain't got nothing better to do. Can't even have no dignity when they die. Okay. I'm gonna go to something different now. So I think a lot of writers wrote during the pandemic, processing what was going on, what they were feeling, seeing, and thinking. And I'm certainly someone that tried to make sense of what I was going through, not only as a poet, but just as a person, as an educator, as a daughter, as a sister, and just, you know, things that you see everyone going through, your community, your family. So I wrote some pandemic poems. All right. Whew. Don't judge me, y'all. Some of this is definitely some ranting. Okay, this is called Two-Headed Monsters in the Pandemic. I crawl inside of the space in my room where no one can see me. Is she really there? Is she her? Is she even with us? I float above myself, afraid of the new existence created by this pandemic. The news never stops with stats and images of hospitals and death, crisis upon crisis. The house that protests in Ferguson and Selma merged with remnants of chattel slavery built. Hate, more hate, illness, but not just illness of the body, illness of the mind and spirit. Talking two-headed monsters smile. Gulp down this hot tea with a swish of mind control, they say. Contaminated news coverage, the spin that done spun out of control. Hollering, election fraud, storm in the Capitol, domestic terrorism, more brutalities. Maybe we should go to Costa Rica. Two-headed monsters aren't saviors for downtrodden Black and brown communities. Plastic face puppets and blurry animation, political porn sent to entertain the natives and quiet the savages. We let them because we can't recognize our own light for the pools of dark matter hovering above us. They lie. Trying to make ignorance beautiful, selling us sacred space made from a pigsty. We are not a nurturing bosom for tired refugees and homeless immigrants. We are not a safe space for all children. We do not put education first. We do not treat all people equally. We do not value mental health or mind-body wellness for all. This is a TED Talk. This is an official announcement on your loudspeaker. This is my inauguration speech. This is my letter in a time capsule. This is my bilingual poem, Tu habla español. We want our ancient griots back, to rewrite history with hieroglyphics and languages you will never read in place of your anti-intellectual, rotting robots and zombies. Whew. All right. Next. Thank you so much, my friends who are here. I want to just take a moment just to greet a few folks who just came in. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. This poem, another pandemic poem, Friday Nights at the New Yo. Prince, I'm sure you'll relate, a pandemic reflection poem on cool things I used to do. Isolated, solitude, Friday, nights like these during this pandemic makes me think of late nights at the New Yorican. So many years ago when breathing the same air wasn't feared, shoulder to shoulder at the famed Lower East Side beacon of poetry, slam notables, mums, Saul, Sarah, Lemon, Black Ice, in my memory. Word sorcerers, descendants of Phyllis, Amiri, Haki, Sonia, Nikki, and Gil. Who's the hottest poet tonight? Every chair filled, standing against the wall, drinks flowing, Miguel laughing, RIP. Words rated by numbers, are you the sacrificial poet or the feature? Hip hop beats between poets, they played Jay-Z one night, we was jamming, hosted by Nathan P., Felice Bell. I slammed poetry and opened the mic. Womanist words and lyrical persuasion felt like a rock star under those hot spotlights. The world was in that audience, my afro big and moisturized, my jeans hugging my hips just right, my lip gloss popping. Brooklyn poet with a Midwest swag finally made it to the place where all the cool scribes fellowship. I miss the New Yorican, really do. Okay. Oh yes, here's another pandemic poem. And Latorio, this is for you because you're in your doctorate program. If you haven't finished already, and congratulations, you'll be able to relate. The big payback. Studying to be a doctor, but this lockdown hits. Damn, how to keep from losing your mind, your religion, while your chair screams at you, you call this an introduction? Do it over. Revisions are never good enough because you're no kind of writer in this program. Alice Coltrane, George Clinton, Sade, and Bob Marley float in on the mothership. Come to my rescue on numerous occasions. We meditate on harps, drums, piano, and bass. Sip on soulful, sanctified sounds while my muse writes my dissertation. Somebody kicks the door open, slams it shut. Mr. James Brown slides into my room only the way he can with feet that glide. You shall be called doctor, even if this damn pandemic never ends. The Godfather proclaims, payback is a mother. Dissertate on that. That's a revenge poem. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, I'm going to read this poem. This is for my favorite writer in the whole world, Zora Neale Hurston. Zora, when interviewed about her hat, y'all know if y'all seen photos of Zora Neale Hurston, she always got that bad hat, like cocked to the side, some hat, right? Okay. I wear my hat this way because it protects my ori from negative energy and folks that don't believe a woman like me should exist. I wear my hat this way, tilted over my eye because I'm a rebel. I was born this way. I left Eatonville as a young girl, journeyed up north, and I never looked back until it was time to write their eyes. Howard University, Harlem, Haiti, I sprinkled my magic in these places. I wear my hat this way because the rain might spoil my hard-pressed curls. A Black woman's hair has got to be fixed right. I wear my hat this way to shield my beautiful brown eyes from the ever-burning bright sun. I wear my hat this way because it makes me handsome like a man, that is beautiful as a South African rose. I wear my hat this way because I am a portrait of the brilliant novelists, essayists, folklorists, and anthropologists that I made myself to be. Now hand me my oyster knife. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to get into a little music here. Am I still within a few minutes? Thank you. Okay, this is called Love and Guitar. This is really short, this one. Was it a riff from Jimmy's guitar on How You Blew My Mind in a Purple Haze? Or was it Lucille, Chuck Berry? Wanted you to come back, I'm not begging you to stay. Never meant to cause you any problems, Prince. You ran away when it purple rained. Doesn't mean I don't still adore you. That's a short one. Okay, this next poem, and I performed this poem at an event several years ago, and I wrote this for the St. Louis poet, the late, great Shirley LaFleur, who was poet laureate in St. Louis as of a few years ago. And this is titled Love to the Griot Woman for Shirley LaFleur. Can you be jazz, Griot woman? Making melodies with the sound of your voice, synchronizing your words with the muscle of the greats, with the music of the greats like Bird, Train, Monk, and Davis? Can you be the sound of the drum, sitting inside the djembe and conga, speaking to hearts, telling your stories, cloaking us in your truth with divine intentions? Can you be ocean, Griot woman, cleansing us of a pain-filled past, showing us how to love, language, art, and culture of a people who have walked this earth for thousands of years? Can you be light, Griot woman, lighting your path with your colors and aura? What you speak, we become. Your vision is our vision. So be it. It's for Shirley LaFleur. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read a few St. Louis poems. All right, this one is titled Blues River. Well, it's not St. Louis, it's more like, you know, Missouri and in that region. No one ever swims in the river where cobblestones disappear, where Oshun waits for honey and cinnamon, holding her mirror up for you to catch a glimpse of your reflection in the waves. Hey, yay, for a love blessing. No one ever swims in the river that separates St. Louis from East St. Louis. Don't be caught in East Boogie after dark. You do, you better come strapped. No one ever swims in the water traveling from Louisiana to Minnesota like ancestors during the Great Migration. Mississippi songs called blues floating on the backs of traveling souls, creating a world from hope. No one ever swims in the mighty Mississippi River unless to get swept away in time and never return. Okay. So I've been wanting to write about Chuck Berry for a long time. And I now have a couple poems. I'm just interested to know more about him and his life. And, you know, he passed some years ago, but, you know, he was from St. Louis, but he's considered the godfather of rock and roll. And, you know, all the groups had to like really pay homage to him, you know, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. they all mention him in some way or another as being, you know, someone that they looked up to and took note of in terms of his musical style. And this is titled Good Music Man. I think about Chuck Berry when he died. Grandmother knew his family when they were younger. Someone in Chuck Berry's family babysat someone in my family. 6 degrees of separation. Chuck Berry, a trailblazer, lives his life in music, on the road, on television, on stage. October Libra like my mama. Birthdays just one day apart. Johnny Be Good, Roll Over Beethoven. Maybelline, he could do a split, move his neck to the music feverishly, play guitar with anointed hands. Godfather of rock and roll, the Beatles and Rolling Stones took note of his style. Graced the stage at St. Louis's Blueberry Hill over 200 times. Bronze statue stands erect in his honor in the Loop of University City. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, good music man, always looks sharp in a suit. Okay. I'm just seeing. Okay. So this is a poem, I think it was published in excerpt on Split This Rock's, Blog This Rock's website a few years ago. This is like the longer version. Okay. I am a man. I am America. I bleed the red, white, and blue. I built this country, yet you made me strange fruit. I am a man, yet this system just won't see. Why am I so feared when I should be free? I taught you justice. I impact every aspect of culture, history, and society. Still, you ignore my claims, my cries. I am Thurgood Marshall's gavel. I am Toussaint Louverture's sword. I am Frederick Douglass's pen. I am W.E.B. Du Bois' intellect. I am James Henrik Clark honoring history. I am Paul Robeson, Renaissance man, hear me speak. I am Malcolm X. I am Medgar Evers. I am Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am Nat Turner. I am Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am James Baldwin, Notes of a Native Son. I am Amiri Baraka. I am blues music, blues poetry, blues protest. I am H. Rap Brown. I am the last poets. I am not scared of revolution. I am Huey Newton giving power to the people. I am Eldridge Cleaver. I am the Scottsboro Boys. I am Jenna Six. I am Trayvon, Tamir, Kajimi, Don't Let Me Go. I am Michael Brown, Don't Shoot. I am Eric Garner, I Cannot Breathe. Look into my heart, see me carrying 400 plus years of oppression because my DNA has a memory, and yours does too. I am a man, I am no different from you. I have grown from a boy to a man who has seen it all. I redefine the meaning of thug, transformation, hope, unity, and growth. I am marching to take a stand, and in the time of the new civil rights era, this revolution will most certainly be televised, photographed, and videotaped. I galvanize and organize. See me, hear me. I will not retreat. You may lie on me, punch me, shoot me, and strike me down. You may burn my house, spread your hate on my street. You may try to kill me and say I wanted it, asked for it, deserved it. You may call me every N-word, spook, porch monkey, and jigaboo in the book. I will protect my family. I will raise my children. I will secure the future of the next generation. I will teach. I will pray for my people in this nation under God. I will create a new world, one that makes you see me, hear me, respect me, honor me. I will fight for justice. I will fight to be seen as a man in all of my power and all of my glory. I will fight to be viewed as a human of value. On the shoulders of my ancestors, I stand as I proclaim, I am a man. Thank you so much. some of these poems are really emotional for me because I try to go into, you know, what is it like for, you know, a Black man in this country, or what was it like for the family of Michael Brown, or what was it like to be a witness of certain things throughout time. And so, you know, when I write these poems, I'm really imagining, and I'm also empathizing, and I'm also trying to place it with some part of history as well. Okay, and how am I on? 1, 2 more? 1, 2 more? Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna go to my previous collection of poetry. I'm kind of going back and forth from like new stuff to old stuff. Okay, so this is a poem from Goddess Under the Bridge Poems. This is Jazz Mystic for Alice Coltrane. She was the inspiration for my recent children's book, Alice's musical debut, just reimagining what a child experiences as they're discovering musical rhythms throughout their environment. And so I have been thinking about Alice Coltrane for a long time, and this is a poem that I wrote several years ago. Jazz Mystic for Alice Coltrane. Journey in Satchidananda, raise hair on my neck, harp let out ancestor cry, wrap around humanity, chords make flowers bloom beneath frozen ground, run through the earth, make a pathway to heaven. The 22nd day of October 2006, NJPAC concert in Newark, New Jersey on a warm fall evening. I walk through the reception, soak up the spirit of oneness in the room. All are here to rest at your feet for a while, celebrate you, a legend named Coltrane. I sit on the edge of my seat like an anxious child. My heart leaps from the balcony to greet you. There you are, Swamini, adorned in orange sari flecked with gold. You glide onto the stage, conjure the divine. Ravi on sax, Dejanette on drums, Gress and Workman on bass, unifying the magnificent sounds of your organ and piano, led by your ashram choir. Meditation welcomed us into sacred reflection. As we journey into translinear light, immersed in your universe, we forget ourselves. We are the lucky ones, anointed by your gift. That was for Alice Coltrane. Okay. I'm going to read another poem, just 2 more poems. This one is Cowgirls, and this is for the Pulitzer Prize winning playwright Susan Laurie Parks. We remix Wilson, Hainsbury, Baldwin, and Hurston to create you. You stomped on our fright, loosed our woulda, coulda, shoulda excuse, rock and rolled us with your third eye vision the way only a bad sister can, so we became your clan. There are few of us left, wild women waking to use art as ritual, hips rumbling when we walk, bellies and wombs full of our prose, hair connecting with roots of ancestor scribes, carrying wisdom in our hands. We are wiser than generations before. We know amethyst, lapis lazuli, carnelian, and onyx are more precious than diamonds. We write rhyme to tell time and tell it like it is, yo, we're bling. We are beyond mediocrity. We are beyond complacency. We earth, wind, fire, water goddesses, healing broken ones to the nth degree. We burn buildings with our brightness. We next generation warriors jacking sky. We fly. We settle this new frontier, birthing new daughters who got necks on the stage. We locked, loaded, and lettered. We healers at the podium recording language, then playing it back, rotating images you can read, notes you can sing. We transform ourselves into digital rainbows, fighting the power, bringing that beat back. Okay, Thank you all so much. I'm going to read one last poem. It's very, very short. Let me see. If I can find it. Actually, maybe I can. I can't find the one I want to read. Okay. This one is Tonka for Kendrick Lamar. Okay. He's one of my favorite hip hop artists of, contemporary artists. Ankh level of woke. Antidote for mumble rap. Pulitzer poet. If Malcolm was a rapper, if Gandhi was a sinner. And that's Tonka for Kendrick Lamar. Thank you all so much for hearing my words and appreciate it. A lot of this is works in progress. I'm still revising and editing and writing. And so I appreciate you all so much. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, EJ, for having me on One Breath Rising. And again, for the spirit and legacy of Daryl Allardyce, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, DuEwa, for that great presentation of your work. I have a couple of questions, and everybody who's on, if you want to ask DuEwa a question, please unmute yourself and you join in the conversation. So I'm going to start off. So DuEwa, you mentioned Zora Neale Hurston, one of my favorite writers also. I just want to know, how does her work influence your work?
Zora's work has taught me to study. Zora was not only a great writer, she was a great student. She was a student of Black folklore and the oral storytelling traditions in the southern region of the United States, particularly Florida, as she studied spirituality and culture in Haiti and all throughout the South. She incorporated her findings into her creative writings. And I would say, as I mentioned to you all, a lot of my recent poems are related to social justice, disturbing things that we've witnessed, seen in the news, read about. We've seen the videos, or even, what we've been going through in the pandemic. I think I'm trying to be a student. I'm trying to observe, and I'm trying to record what I see. I'm trying to record what I feel. I'm trying to record what people are sharing, not only in my own community, but others outside of myself as well. And I think that's something that Zora did masterfully, and I'm still learning from her. That poem that I wrote was in a workshop this summer. We were being guided to write persona poems and to write about objects, and I chose Zora's hat. And, I thought about what would it be like to interview her about her hat. If someone were to ask, why do you wear this hat? Or, one hat. So certainly my favorite book of hers is Their Eyes Were Watching God, but I also have a number of essays that I love of hers, How It Feels to Be Colored Me. And, she writes about being Black. She writes about being a Black woman. And of course, I can relate to that. And I think about, what she wrote about then is still relevant. Zora Neale Hurston said the Black woman is the mule of the world in one of her works. And, that quote is still very evident today. So some may disagree, but I am a Black woman and I understand some of the experiences that I've had and my foremothers have had. And so that is why I wholly relate to her work and to the spirit that she's left behind of her literary legacy.
Yes. There's always a lot for us to learn from the ancestors and the elders that came before us. And I find that today's society, we don't have enough of looking back so we can get a better understanding of where we're moving forward. and Zora Neale Hurston and James Baldwin and Richard Wright. Those, we look back to those writers and then look forward to our own work. We have a path set out in front of us that a lot of people just don't want to see, you know. Speaking of social justice, did you find that social justice has always been a theme of your work from when you first started writing? That just continues, or is it something that you came to at a later period in your writing?
Well, I think certainly I've always written about Black culture and history. I have earlier poems going back to 2001, 2002, 2003, where I'm, writing about the poets, the Black poets who have inspired me, and where I'm writing about Black history, and where I'm writing about just journeys, the journeys that, our ancestors have experienced. I think that my writing in that focus took a different turn and meaning. Obviously, as I mentioned, the case of Michael Brown, and during that time, I guess it hit home for me in a way, seeing that, I grew up, I partly, my life was formed in St. Louis, my young life, for a number of years, and knowing, even though I didn't grow up in Ferguson, knowing that, this is something that is going on in a place that I remember being around as a kid, and just thinking about, you hear stories from your elders about, how St. Louis or areas in the Midwest have always been divided racially and by class. But I think as a child, those are not things that you're focusing on. And I think it takes you to becoming an adult and understanding how these things are impacting you. And of course, I was an educator, K-12 educator at that time. And I'm thinking about, what is the impact on students, not just us as adults, but what about kids? There are children that witness this. There are children that live right on that street, right in that community. How does this impact them? And this happened in August of, I want to say 2014. And then they are expected to go to school in another week or two. So I think for me as an educator, I took an interest, well, not just educator, but also a poet. I took an interest in writing about this to not only work out my own feelings about it, but in thinking about what does it mean for students? And if I'm teaching, doing writing workshops with kids or with teenagers, helping them to express themselves, a lot of times they're more likely to express what they're feeling and thinking about the news and what's going on community-wise if you model it for them. And so I've always tried to be a writer teacher who can write and be a model for the students on, I guess, expressing very difficult subject matters. So I would say maybe that's how I developed in my writing on social justice.
Okay. I just want you to know, I just saw within the last couple of months, it's either on Netflix or Prime, they do have a documentary on Chuck Berry. And I watched it, and it was interesting to hear Keith Richards from the Stones talk about his interaction with Chuck Berry and how much you could see the admiration that
they love him.
For him.
They love him.
And they talk about how difficult he was to work with, but they understood why he was difficult. Because he was, he was somebody who was, he wasn't going to perform if you didn't pay him up front.
Right.
Because we have heard the stories where a lot of the entertainers weren't, they would perform, and then the people would say, oh, we didn't really make any money, so we can't pay you, that type of thing. And he was a very steadfast man about getting his money up front. So you could understand why he was difficult, why they considered him to be difficult. But when you hear Keith Richards and them talk about him, you're like, yeah, understand that.
Right. Yeah, that's so true.
So true. I just want you to know, I really love how you work the music, the blues and the jazz and all the different types of music that that we have in our culture into your work. You know, a lot of, we're at a time, there are a lot of our younger generation, a lot of them don't have an appreciation. Like if you say Billie Holiday to some of them, they don't know who you're talking about. I never thought I would get to be old enough to not have somebody not know who Billie Holiday was.
Who that is, right.
Who that is, you know what I mean? So I really appreciate that you bring the music also into your work, and you know, to give it a context.
Thank you so much.
That is something not to be forgotten. That it's something that their current music is based off of, whether they understand it at this time or not. But I really do appreciate that. I want to open up the floor. If anybody else out there has a question that they would like to ask DuEwa, please come right on in, speak up.
I have a question and a comment. It's Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. Thank you so much for this wide and beautiful reading. I listened to the poems about the women and the men and all mixed in. And I want to say that the poem about the men, I want to say that to me, that's a play. While you were reading it, it sounded like traveling. And I could see you having different men inhabit and interpret the work or the voice or sound of the goal of each of those poets. But what I mean, musicians and poets also. But what I wanted to ask you, while you were writing that, was there an emotional experience that you had while you were writing it?
Do you mean the poem, I Am a Man, where I'm reciting the different names?
And you were calling Amiri Baraka and all the different, and so I was just wondering, what emotional experience did you have, or if you had one, while you were writing that? Because I just felt like traveling, almost inhabited, listening to it. So I was wondering, what was your experience writing it?
I think for me, it was, how do I, you know, I mentioned Michael Brown and that whole period of, you know, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, it just seemed like every month, every other month, it was a different case, so to speak. And we're watching it in video, and I'm thinking, you know, and at that time, people were saying, oh, you know, Black men are under siege, Black men this, Black men that. And I'm like, okay, but so how can we empathize? Because of course, it's not just Black men, but however, there was a period where the grief was so community-wise, our grief was so heavy on the losses, on, you know, all this brutality and everything going on. And I'm trying to make sense of it. I mean, there is no making sense of it, but I'm just saying, for me as a creative, I'm like, I'm always thinking, how can I channel my rage, frustration, anger, you know, into the work here? And, you know, in a way that it's, you know, in a teaching manner, I guess, you know, but also in getting out my thoughts. And that poem for me was really to pay homage to Black men, to great men who have certainly sacrificed their lives and contributed in a number of facets in this society, in this world. That poem is like a, let us not forget. You know, we may be seeing this violence and hatred and all this, these videos that play out, and we're getting secondhand post-traumatic stress from seeing all of this, but let us not forget the greatness, the humanity and the genius of Black men and of Black people in Black history. Not to say that other people are not great. Don't get me wrong. I know this is being recorded, and I am an educator. If my students were to ask me, well, Professor Frazier, why would you say just no? There are great people throughout time, yes, but this poem is in paying homage to Black men and understanding the pain they have gone through and what we're still seeing. And our pain is the same. And I'm just really wanting to say their name. When we talk about say her name, say his name, say their name.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in that repetition because I want that spirit to come out, and I want that greatness to come out, and I want us to not forget all of these legacies that we're a part of while we are grieving about all this other BS going on. So that was what I was going through, and probably what I still go through, honestly, quite frankly.
Yes.
Still going through it, you know, because we're human and we feel the pain of others, whether it's our family or not, whether it's on our block or not, you feel it and creatives, we're really sensitive. And so this is how I'm channeling it, you know, rather than, you know, go out and tear some stuff up.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Our rage
Thank you.
comes.
Thank you.
Our rage comes through our pen, and I felt it. I felt it as you were reading it, and I just want to thank you for that acknowledgement of Black men. You know, I mean, but you know, it goes without saying. All people have greatness within them, but you know, you can't underscore. You can't underscore the contribution of Black people as a whole, you know, and I think that kind of gets blanketed.
Yeah.
Well, not kind of, it does. It actually
It does.
Yes.
You know, to the point where the youth don't recognize their greatness or what they came from. They don't recognize their lineage.
No.
You know, and when the story is truly told, I think it will energize. It energizes, you know, to let them know that, hey, I can do this. I come from this. You know, but we all have to overcome that obstacle, which is the lies, the untruths.
Right. Because,
Yes.
and I appreciate that, Prince. And I think that's what I'm saying with this poem, or others of us who are creating and we're healing ourselves and we're trying to inspire and heal others and educate. What I'm saying is, yes, I understand you looking at me like I'm an animal that needs to be, you know, destroyed and this and that. However, let's look at Langston Hughes. Let's look at Amiri Baraka. Let's look at all these great, you know that I'm not, because you can see all of these people in my lineage and whose shoulders I stand on. And you see these great people, even whose names you call their names too. You teach them in the universities and in the schools. You know that they're great, and they are my reflection. And I think that's really what I'm trying to say in the I Am a Man. And I'm constantly, it's like, I'm going to reclaim, despite you're making me look like I'm less than a human and less than a man myself, I'm going to reclaim that. And here's how I'm going to reclaim my humanity and my strength and my existence and my power, my inner power.
And I love that that's coming from a woman as well, that
Yes.
honoring.
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think, although, you know, I'm, you know, female in gender, if I needed to be uplifted as a man and be able to pick myself up after witnessing all these things or experiencing all of these things, it's almost like, well, these are the words I would want to hear. I would want someone to say this to me if I'm in his shoes. Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
DuEwa, thank you for sharing. I mean, these are some great poems. Marie Evans, I believe, wrote, "Who can be born Black and not sing the wonder of it? The challenge." That's what I was thinking about as you
Marie
were reading these poems. And then Nikki Giovanni always says, you know, write what you know. That's her advice to young writers, is to write what you know. And I think all of that shines through. So I guess I would like to ask you two questions moving forward. Like, how do you maintain the singularity of your voice? Even trying to speak universally as a poet. That's one question. And the other part of it is what types of poems would you like to write in the future? Things that maybe you haven't quite focused on at this point.
Sure. Okay, you said, how do I maintain my voice, as a singular poet? I'm sorry. Oh, you typed it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I need this. I'm a visual.
I didn't think I would get to ask it, so I had started typing.
Wow. How do you maintain your singularity and universality in the world of creatives?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Like, what makes you?
I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that though. Is that maybe for others to answer?
Is there anything that you try to be in terms of being different than other poets?
Nope.
Or okay,
No.
So you just, however it comes out.
No, because I can tell you with this pandemic, I didn't have, I mean, other than interviewing some of these good folks like, Leslie C. Youngblood, who's here, a notable award-winning children's middle grade author. I interviewed Leslie. I interviewed the great Cheryl Boyce Taylor, who's here on her recent book. And, they are my inspiration. However, I just tend to write what I'm feeling. Like I mentioned, I wanted to write about Chuck Berry. I know he was a complex individual. I know that he got in some trouble in his life, but I just had an interest in him to learn more and know more about him. So in that way, I'm not trying to be anybody, but just be able to write. I mean, it's a struggle. It was a struggle during the pandemic. I finished my doctorate during the pandemic. And for a good, 2-3 years, I was not able to creatively write. Okay, I'm working on a dissertation. I'm working on academic writing. It's quite a different brain. It's different language. It's different rules. I'm having to master APA formatting. I know some of y'all know what that is. It was a doozy. I could not get into my creative writing. Some of these things are things that are pouring out of me now that I thought about while I was a doctoral student, but I could not write. I was unable to. My mind was filled up with other things, and I was quite frankly very stressed out. I mean, I'm sure some of y'all know. And we're in the pandemic, and you're dealing with, well, I'm on video. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just saying my struggle is just to write, period. I'm not comparing myself to anyone else. Every writer I know is award-winning and best-selling. They got names and claims that I don't have. And I've been in the game for a long time. Prince knows. Prince and I used to ride the subway together when I graduated college and moved back to Brooklyn, where I was born. And I didn't know anybody. And I was nervous. And I was very introverted, but I was a writer. And Prince is one of the people who befriended me, and I felt safe around him. And for me, it's always been, how can I get my voice out? Because I'm still probably recovering from being introverted, quite frankly. I mean, I'm not anymore, but you know what I mean? So I don't know how I maintain a singularity other than to just every day get up and try to be encouraged through all these things going on and through fighting whatever internal feelings that you have about what's going on. And I'm trying to stay connected with people with my podcasts and my blogging and things that I do with this being a blessing. So I would say, Latorio, that's really all I can say, because I don't fully know if I can really answer that. I'm wondering if other people may have to observe me and answer that.
That's a good answer.
Okay.
And I think your first response was the best one. We don't really get to determine the poets that we are. Other people do.
Yeah. Thank you.
In terms of our style and things like that.
Thank you so much. So I appreciate that. It helps me think about something I've never really thought about.
And I also think that you maintain that by speaking and writing your truth in a daring, unafraid way. That's what I feel about your work.
Thank you. And Latorio, you asked me what other poems I would like to write. I'm going to be honest, I sometimes have trouble writing about myself. I am working on some things, and I shared some work with an editor, and they tore it apart. It wasn't poetry. I would like to be, I think there's some poets are so transparent. I mean, what I can say is I think I'm sometimes wishing that I could be someone that really knows how to write about themselves, but I have trouble with that, and for some reasons. So I try to write about what I see and feeling on music and things like that. Those are things that I can easily get out of myself. But I would like to work more on writing about, really go deep into, what about writing about what it was like to be a teacher? I feel like I should write poems about that. I was teaching in Bed-Stuy. I mean, I had kids screaming at me, fighting in the classroom. How did I get through that for some years? I should write about that, but I don't. So Latorio, when you say, well, are there things you want to write about? Yes, there are a lot of things I want to write about. I don't know when or if, but there are things that I do think about, and I would love to be more transparent about my life and think about how to write those things down.
Well, now it's a great time to write about being a teacher with all that's going on with teachers and the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to hear a lot from teachers in the next
I agree.
5 years.
I totally agree with you, for sure.
Sometimes with DuEwa, the best way to write about something that you think you should write about, but you don't, is to just sit down and do a free write on it. Don't try to make it into anything in particular. Just do that free write, put it to the side, wait a couple of weeks, then go back and read it. And a theme will probably jump out at you that you can grasp onto to move you to that next development step. Because that's how I was, when I did my first CD, that's how I was working with a producer, and he would not allow me to listen to the takes of the recording until 2 weeks after we did them in the studio.
Mm.
He said, because you need time to divorce yourself from it, so that when you hear it, you are really hearing it, not what you thought you did that day.
Right.
And I think and I sometimes take that into my writing. Just write down whatever it is you think about, whatever that topic is that you normally wouldn't write about, and then just sort of put it to the side. And then just wait a couple of weeks, and then go back to it and read it and go, whoa, wait a minute. And usually you find that thread that allows you to really grasp onto that poem you want to write, or that short story you want to write.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest that when you're trying to get into an area that you really don't want to, it's at the surface, but you really don't want to get it. You really don't want to write about
Sure.
it.
Yeah. I think there's a certain self-judgment that goes on. When I say that, and I don't know what the process is for other writers, but I think there is a wanting to write about certain things, but then you have your own judgments about that topic or whatever it is. And you're like, if I really put this out the way it actually happened, it's going to be ugly.
And guess what?
This might not be enjoyable for others to read.
And guess what? Ugly exists. It exists, and we shouldn't be trying to not make it ugly. If it was ugly, it was ugly.
Right.
If it was good, it was good. If it was in between, it was in between. And we have to learn to put it all out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some people aren't going to want it because it touches something that they don't want to touch.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't write about it. And there's nothing wrong with writing about ugly, because we got a whole lot of ugly going on right now.
Thank you for that, EJ.
DuEwa, as writers, to get to the depths of what we want to do and talk about, we have to arrive at a point where we don't care what others may think. We can't anticipate others' reactions. And
Yes.
as ugly as it may be, sometimes the ugliness becomes beautiful to somebody else.
Yes, yes. Thank you for saying that.
Saying that, yeah.
Because I really feel that way. What you would find ugly, somebody looks at it and says, damn, this is my story. This is my life, and I could learn something from it. You don't decide what's ugly. You just write. That's your only job.
You're just a vehicle.
That's right.
And also, I would suggest any ideas that you have in terms of, like, you want to write about teaching, you think you want to write about teaching, the slightest notion that you have, put it in your notes.
Yes.
Put it in your notes and just leave it. And then something else will come and put it in your notes. Next thing you know, you got a poem, or you got a short story. But
yeah,
don't let those ideas escape, because every nugget is valuable. Put them in your notes.
Right. That's right. Well, we are at the end of our session here. I want to thank DuEwa for reading for us today, and we really greatly appreciate you and really enjoyed this question and answer segment here that we had going.
Thank you so much.
Everybody who participated in this. It was really, really great. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Joy, who's gonna talk us out.
Talk us out. I just wanted to say, DuEwa, you are still an educator. I learned so much, and a lot of what you talked about just reminded me of what I know already, but made us look at things in other different ways, and in such beautiful ways. And I love hearing how you process things. Like we were talking about St. Louis, and obviously Ferguson is part of St. Louis, and that was so meaningful, and really took us back. So thank you everybody for coming. We hope we'll see you again. This was really a fantastic conversation. And one of the things I was thinking is that when we're all muted, you can't hear our reactions, but I think at the end you really saw how engaged we all were and how interested and excited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing that. So we hope we see you again, everybody who's here, and please tell your friends. I just put in the chat the way to donate. It's onebreathrising.org/donate. And thank you again. We're so thrilled. Next month, we will have, EJ, I'm going to need help pronouncing.
Okay, we're going to have Mariah Odessa Ikari Tally is going to be our feature next month. And for December, we're going to have poet LaConte Dill. So I hope that y'all will join us next month and in December. And for January, we're going to have the fabulous Frank X. Walker out of Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Okay. We'll
really getting some heavy hitters.
Next
year, we're killing it.
Next year, we're going to have, I already got a commitment from Willie Perdomo. So
Willie,
just stick with us. Stick with us. Just come back. We have a wonderful season for you this year. Wonderful season.
Yeah, it sounds like it already.
Fantastic.
So if you're not on our mailing list, you can do that at onebreathrising.org also.
Okay.
Great.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, DuEwa.
Thank you, EJ and Joy, again for having me. Appreciate it. And I'll be back to support future readings.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you all. All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Kari, Leslie, Latorio, thank you all for coming.
Lovely Sunday. Thank you.
Good night, DuEwa. Good night, everybody.
Good
night,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Peace and love.